Money FM 89.3, the best of the afternoon update.
Money FM 89.3, a very good Monday afternoon to you. Have you had lunch yet? I mean, this question you hear very, very often, at this time of the afternoon. Food indeed is a big thing for us. And for Singapore, food security is critical given our limited resources and competing land uses. On Industry Insight today, we take a look at the agriculture industry, which is seeing a shift towards operations-focused solutions. Indeed, traditional farming methods are giving way to innovative technologies as farmers increasingly prioritize productivity. Many are navigating challenges such as increased input prices, extreme weather events, and commodity price volatility. From aeroponics and hydroponics to vertical farming, there are advancements that are revolutionizing how we think about food production, especially in urban landscapes like Singapore, where land is scarce and the need for locally grown produce is crucial. To tell us more about this agricultural revolution, I'm very pleased to introduce my guest, Leonard Teo, founder of Straits Agriculture. Welcome to Money FM 89.3, Leonard.
Hello, I'm good. It's great to be here.
Thanks for joining us here in the studio. Now, tell us more about yourself, and let's start with Straits Agriculture.
I'm Leonard. I am the resident farmer of Straits Agriculture. Don't usually use the word founder, but yes, I am also the founder of Straits Agriculture. So Straits Agriculture actually is an urban farm in Singapore. Mainly, we actually utilize underutilized rooftops, and we actually do vertical farming, but in the outdoor spectrum. So I started Straits Agriculture in 2020, so it's almost coming to 5 years now, or just past 5 years. And we actually were the first to actually bring in this new technology called aeroponics, or high-pressure aeroponics, which is quite different from what you would see in traditional hydroponics farms where you just flush water. And then this one actually uses high-pressure pumps to humidify water inside a certain chamber, and then after that, the roots actually grow inside there. Yeah.
Okay, very interesting. But more interestingly, we were talking about this just before we went to air. You told me you never studied anything to do with agriculture. So what's your background?
So my background is I actually graduated from NTU in Singapore. I graduated last year. So I actually studied aerospace engineering.
Wow.
Yeah,
the world of difference.
Yeah, so one in the sky and one on the ground.
Yes.
The thing is, actually engineering is actually quite flexible. So it's a broad spectrum skill that you actually can then utilize it in any other industry that you go to, right? So it's not specific to aerospace industry. And in fact, if anything, the aerospace courses that I have learned in NTU has actually prepped me or geared me up for the engineering challenges that I faced then when I started Straits Agriculture.
Okay, but what's the connection here? Are you really passionate about agriculture that led you to, start your own company?
So, yes, I think very simply put it, I actually take my vegetables quite seriously. Back in 2020, I had this opportunity to get to know my Dutch partners, right, my working partners. And I was just telling them a story about how I wasn't very happy with the vegetables that we find in Singapore due to a variety of reasons. Could be logistics, and by the time they come to Singapore, they're not exactly the freshest vegetables you get. True. So we were saying, how about this? If we were to solve this issue, just have it grown at the source. The source should be straight where the consumers are at, right? So that's one problem that we solve. So we grew it right here in Singapore. So that's the hyper-local part of it. And then the other side is, how can technology then help improve our vegetables in terms of nutritional needs or nutritional benefits, taste, as well as freshness? So aeroponics, in that case, when we did our R&D or when we did our tests, aeroponics actually came out to be the best tasting vegetables among our control group of people that tested. And we did blind tasting, so they actually, almost everybody chose the aeroponics vegetables. Yep.
Wow, okay. But Leonard, as the world faces challenges in food security, I talked a little bit about it earlier, we've got things like climate change, urbanization. Agriculture is undergoing a massive shift. So I'm sure you've done your market research before going into this business. What do you think is the most important thing for this business at this point in time in this industry?
In Singapore, this is considered a new industry, or should I say a renewed industry, because Singapore did used to have our strong suits in agriculture back 40, 50 years ago, right? So with this new industry in Singapore, I wouldn't say that it's where we don't have the technology for it, but we actually do. So right now, it's not about us finding new technology to improve. Of course, we always have to have the constant improvements. But then right now, it's scaling up in Singapore or actually anywhere around the world. So there are a lot of news articles almost on a monthly basis that comes out and says, hey, all these CEA farms are closing down. So CEA, for your information, is controlled environment agriculture. So it's where you play God and you control the humidity, the temperature, the light and everything. So the reason we didn't go towards CEA, because when I did my background research, I said CEA was not entirely possible in Singapore because of the relatively high costs. So you have to have air conditioning, you have to have LED lights. I might be wrong. There are some CEA farms that are doing exceptionally well in Singapore, or rather well. But we went the other route where we said, okay, we'll try and use as much natural resources as possible. So we are full spectrum. So only sunlight. Right, there's no LED lights, no supplementary lighting. And then we use underutilized rooftops where we also design greenhouses that can accelerate the wind beside our greenhouses to push air through, right? So we don't have to have like big industrial fans and all these kind of things, right?
Okay.
So that's another method that we use. So yeah, aerospace technology did come in quite useful.
Okay. So you're talking about optimizing efficiency, sustainability.
Correct.
What about yield?
So yield is where if you know how to grow your vegetables well, then it's a simple linear multiplication after that, right? So on our rooftop, a lot of people actually go flat. So it's just one level. So a lot of people say vertical farming. Vertical farming in general actually means CEA, where you do it indoors, and then you got racks and racks and racks of vegetables pile up on one another, right? We also do something similar, but outdoors, where we actually have like HDB-looking towers. We call them aeroponic towers, right? And then we actually also do go up. So that's how we multiply our yield. But obviously, they have their own set of challenges when you're in an outdoor setting as compared if you were into an indoor setting.
Okay.
Right?
In terms of pressure, when you build higher, does that mean that it's higher pressure?
No. So all the pressure is all the same. So we pressurize like a chamber, so we call it a humidity chamber. And in this humidity chamber, we actually just pressurize the water in. So we don't actually pressurize the chamber. It's the water that gets pressurized in, and then it becomes like a mist. So another word for this aeroponic towers or aeroponics is actually misponics. So it's a relatively new tech, quite expensive to build. So I understand if people don't actually uptake it or if the industry don't actually adopt it that quickly.
Okay. Yeah. So you've got high pressure aeroponics and hydroponics. How do these technologies, in terms of cultivating high quality produce, how do they translate into high quality produce?
Okay, so technology is only one part. So I know a lot of people do think that technology is like a magic wand that solves all your issues. Unfortunately, it's not. Regardless of whether you actually use urban farm with technology or you do it more traditional methods using soy, you must be a farmer at heart first.
Yes.
Right? Okay.
Are you one?
It took me a lot of failure before I actually got it to where we are now, right? So you have to learn about, let's say, the fertilizers that you're going to use and all this kind of nicks and necks, all right? All the science stuff behind it, chemistry maybe. Okay, but for us, we actually have a special fertilizer which we actually call sea salt. So we actually have a powderized sea salt that has upwards of 95 trace elements. So we have phytonutrients, amino acids, fatty acids and all this. And then we fortify our vegetables with those, right? Okay. So the easiest way to tell if your vegetable is good is to taste it. So the human nose is actually really powerful. If you smell something rotting, chances are it's gone bad, right? It's the same with vegetables. If your vegetables taste bad, maybe over fertilization because the farmer has put too much concern on his yield instead of the actual nutritional benefits of the vegetables, right? So hydroponics and aeroponics on the hand is actually just to aid the farmers in Singapore. So we got a shortage of land, and then our weather right now, it's monsoon, right? So if you are in the field, your vegetables will be getting way too much water. So overwatering is an issue. So hydroponic and aeroponics actually is just a tool that we use to deliver all these nutrients to the plants. It's an easier way of growing because you take away the soil where it gets messy, you don't need vast amount of land, and you can actually do it anywhere. Some people have it in their offices, some people have it in their houses, for us, rooftops. Yeah.
Oh, okay. Now, speaking of tools, almost every conversation we have, especially on Money FM 89.3, we talk about AI. So what role do you think innovation, particularly in AI and data analytics will play in the future of aeroponics farming?
This is actually quite an interesting topic because I myself am actually looking at what's being offered on the market now.
Okay.
So there has been a lot of buzz about AI and how it helps in farming. So maybe not as related to the kind of vegetables that we grow, but maybe in fruit farming, for example, AI has driven a large change. You have AI cameras that can study when your fruit will ripen. For example, I believe we have a strawberry indoor farm in Singapore that also utilizes such stuff. Syngrow, if I'm not wrong. So AI is a big help. You can say when your fruit is going to ripen, and then the AI can actually instruct a robot, for example, in other farms where they can actually harvest the fruit at its peak, which means that you get the most amount of nutrition in it. You get phenomenally better tasting strawberries, right? And then you also get high efficiency because your fruits are not left on the plants hanging for longer. For ours, in fact, I think what we're actually looking into is maybe trying to bring in some CEA within reasonable means, right? So, for example, let's say altering the watering schedule of the plants, right? So the AI or the computer will be able to read the surrounding temperature, humidity, or the amount of sunlight, right, that we get, and then after that tweak the amount of fertilizer or the water that we then deliver to the plants. So that could mean cost saving, or that could mean increased yield, right? So it's a good thing. It's just finding the right solutions right now. Yeah.
Okay. And earlier you were mentioning the types of vegetables you plant using aeroponics and hydroponics. Can you tell us more? What kind of vegetables would be suitable for these sort of techniques?
So for us, well, we actually do grow quite a bit of vegetables, or at least a lot of variety. So we are a polyculture farm. We do not grow just one vegetable. We actually grow a variety. So most of the vegetables that we grow, because again, food security, we try to grow the vegetables that are very popular with Singaporeans, or the ones that we eat on an almost weekly basis, right? So we got our, my favorite would be xiao pai cai.
I was going to say that.
Another name for it would be bak choy, right? And then we got nai pai, and then we got chai sin. Japanese chai sin as well, komatsuna. We got Japanese hybrid kailan, also the Mandarin name for it is sin pao cai. And then we also do grow a bit of novelty items. So for example, Tuscan kale. Another name for it is called dinosaur kale. And then we also have curly kale, which is a more popular variety of kale that you find in supermarkets. We also do grow a bit of herbs. So we got apple mints, chocolate mint, right, for bars and restaurants and chefs that actually get quite excited when they find these kind of produce in Singapore. We got our classic Genovese basil and all this kind of things.
Wait a minute. You came empty-handed.
Oh, no.
You should have brought some so that I can believe how good your techniques are in cultivating
No,
vegetables.
if I brought some here today, you wouldn't come to the farm. You have to come to the farm and try it, right? You got to see it for yourself.
Okay, Leonard, what are the biggest challenges you've faced in developing an urban agriculture business in Singapore?
There are actually more than meets the eye. So I know everybody throws around the word cost quite loosely, right? Yes, I would not say that cost is not an issue. Cost is always an issue. Our labor cost is quite high. Land, by land I mean rental costs. Depending on where you go to, is it a private commercial building or is it a land that you get from the government? But another one that people don't realize is that our vegetables are actually relatively affordable in Singapore.
Yes.
If you get from the supermarkets. We are then having to compete with all these imports, which means that we also have to find a way to lower our costs. But as of now, we still haven't found a way to reduce our costs to compete or price an exact dollar to what we get from our Malaysian counterparts or our Chinese counterparts in China, right? So that's one of the issue. And then obviously, like I said just now, this is a re-emerging industry in Singapore, right? So a lot of government policies are still trial and error. What works for farmers, what doesn't work for the farmers. I think the government still has a lot to get into, right? So that's another thing. And then not so related to money would be climate change.
Right.
Climate change is also putting quite a bit of pressure on the farmers. If you are not fully indoors, the outdoor farmers tend to have a bit more problems to deal with. Yeah.
Speaking of which, sustainability, I understand, is the core mission for your company. Can you share some of the ways Straits Agriculture reduces environmental impact while maintaining high quality produce?
Okay, so this is where the tech part comes in, right? So one of it, which I mentioned already, we try to use our full spectrum farming, which is actually sunlight, and actually also helps to make our vegetables taste slightly better than some of our competitors. At least that's what I get from customers.
Good old vitamin D.
That is correct. And vitamin K as well.
Okay.
Right? And C. So when we are on the rooftop, it's already an area that's not being used. So we only have to erect a greenhouse. So that's one of the ways where we don't have to actually deforest land.
All right.
Right? In Singapore, for example, to make way for more farmlands. That's one. And then more towards what the tech can actually do is actually hydroponics itself already reduces the water usage when compared to traditional field farming by about 90%. Sometimes even up to 95, 97%, right? So water usage, and water is extremely precious in Singapore, not to mention quite costly. So that's one of the ways, right? And then another way is when we actually start to scrutinize our operating procedures, right? So back then we used to use plastic sponges or sponges to throw our seeds in. So we have since transitioned from plastic sponges to cocoa peat. So cocoa peat is actually a very interesting material. It's actually the outer husk of your coconut, and then it's dried. So we like to drink our coconuts, like to eat the flesh inside, right? But the husk is actually thrown away. So it's actually a waste material from the coconut industry. You dry it, you wash it, you grind it up, it becomes a perfect media for you to grow your vegetables. Yeah. So we still use cocoa peat for certain vegetables in our farm, and then for others we retain our sponges,
Okay. Leonard, I'm afraid we've run out of time, but thank you so much for sharing about aeroponics and hydroponics and, some trends in this agricultural space. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
He is Leonard Teo, founder of Straits Agriculture.
To listen to more great interviews, download our podcasts at audio.sg or download the audio app. That's AWEDIO, audio at the App Store and Google Play.